Shalom. Welcome to Torah Jews. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your teacher just for a few minutes as we look at this week's Torah portion, which is Tavo. And Tavo means when you enter, and we're talking about Moshe telling the children of Israel when they enter the land. Some more wonderful mitzvot, some more commandments from Hashem that are wonderful. But the first one that they talk about here in today's parshah is the first fruits, which is very, very interesting, the concept of first fruits. It says, "It will be when you enter the land that Hashem your God gives you as an inheritance and you possess it and dwell in it, that you shall take the first of every fruit of the ground that you bring in from your land that Hashem your God gives you, and you shall put it in a basket and go to the place that Hashem your God will choose to make his name rest there." Well, let's stop right there for a second. Here's the first fruits. To take it to a place where Hashem, your God, will choose to make his name rest there. Well, we know where that is. There's only one place in the world where that is. And that's in Jerusalem, in Israel, at the Temple Mount. That's where Hashem rests his name. That's where we have to take it. In verse 3, he says, "You shall come to whomever will be the Cohen in those days," Cohen, the high priest, "and you shall say to him, I declare today to Hashem your God that I have come to the land that Hashem swore to our forefathers to give us. And the Cohen will take the basket from our hand and lay it before the altar of Hashem our God. Then you shall call out and say before Hashem your God, an Aramean tried to destroy my forefather. He descended to Egypt and sojourned there, few in number, and there he became a nation, great, strong, and numerous. The Egyptians mistreated us and afflicted us and placed hard work upon us. Then we cried out to Hashem, the God of our forefathers. And Hashem heard our voice and saw our affliction, our travail, and our oppression. Hashem took us out of Egypt with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, with great awesomeness, and with signs and with wonders. He brought us to this place, and he gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now behold, I have brought the first fruit of the ground that you have given me, O Hashem. And you shall lay it before Hashem your God, and you shall prostrate yourself before Hashem your God." And then it says, "You shall be glad with all the goodness that Hashem your God has given you, you and your household." There's so much here, and we just have a little bit of time, so we're just going to kind of hit the highlights, of course. The first fruits. We as human beings have this propensity to, in our pride and our arrogance, to claim to be successful. That look at what we accomplished, look at us, look what we've done. And we puff ourselves up. Look at my degrees. Look at my job status. Look at my children. Look at myself. These concepts aren't in the Torah. These concepts aren't from a Torah for someone who's Torah observant. This is a puffing up of the pride. These first fruits, if you listen carefully to what the declaration says, Hashem gave them. Remember, Hashem did, Hashem does, Hashem will do everything. Everything comes from Hashem. That includes your job. That includes your talents, your abilities, your money. That includes your children, your status. That includes everything. Because there's only one power in the universe, and that is Hashem. So do we have the power? Well, Hashem grants us certain gifts and abilities. But see, that still comes from Hashem. That doesn't come from you. You don't have any intrinsic power of your own. Now you can choose to use it or not use it, but it comes from Hashem, regardless. So it says here, when we enter the land and we have our first fruits, we should take it to the place where Hashem has placed his name in Jerusalem. And we declare before the Cohen, basically our past and where we come from. Abraham, our father. how the wonder, and we mentioned the wonders and the miracles of Hashem of bringing us out of Egypt and redeeming us. And then we declare that here are the first fruits that Hashem has given to me. Doesn't say that I worked so hard on, and that I stayed up all night, and I worked 60 hours a week, and I sold myself out, stole time from my family and from God to make a dime. Doesn't say that. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't work, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing things such as that. I'm just saying everything has its proper place. And when you put Hashem first in everything that you do and realize that everything comes from Him, then you're not going to have any problem in the time that you spend at work, in the time you spend with your children, and the time you spend with your wife or your husband, and the time that you spend with Hashem Himself. You're not going to have any time with that, any problem with that, because you have already put Hashem first. And when you do that, everything else falls into place. When you do that, you begin to study Torah, you begin to pray, and Hashem begins to show you where you are lacking. He begins to tweak you and to show you where you need to change and what you need to be about. And then you begin to understand. And then you begin to make changes. Sometimes the changes are a little difficult and they're a little challenging, but that's just because we fight our own Yetzer Hara. We fight our own inclinations. But Hashem knows what's best. Everything He does is for the best. Everything He does for us, everything He sends to us, everything is good. When we grasp this concept, we will see it's the concept of Emunah. It's the faith. It's the complete belief. So here we go. We're not puffing ourselves up and thumping ourselves on the chest and saying, Hashem, look what I brought you. Hashem already knows. Hashem gave it to us. Hashem gives us our livelihood. Do you think working any harder is going to make you any more money? It won't. It won't. Everything comes from Hashem. And that includes the reward from the input of your work. Usually Hashem rewards those who work hard, if they're working hard with the correct intent. If you're working hard just to gain materialistic things, He might even grant you that. But then that's going to be a reward here. And of course we don't want that. So this is an interesting thing. The first fruits. And you're supposed to bring them in a basket, and you bring them before the Kohen. And then you make the declaration that you've come to the land. And you make the declaration that Hashem gave us the land. He gave it to the forefathers. He gave us this, the first fruits. The commenters say that we have the propensity of wanting to keep the first fruits for ourselves. That we want, and make no mistake, this is not like the tithe. Okay, it's not the 10% tithe. This is the bikurim, the mitzvah of first fruits. And this is to remind us that Hashem has given us the Holy Land as an inheritance, and that comes, and the things that come from that is also from Hashem. And we should take it back to Hashem because He owns it all. Okay, He has it all. But it's also to keep us humble. It's also to keep us so that we won't be prideful and say, "Look at all that I have done." Because we have the tendency to do that as human beings when things are going well. We forget Hashem and we put ourselves in His place. When Hashem is the one who made it go well for us. And see, when things go bad, then we blame Hashem instead of looking at ourselves of why things are bad. You see, we have them upside down. Alright? Hashem is the one. Hashem also causes the things that happen to us that we would perceive as not so good, and that's to bring us closer to Him. Everything He does is to bring us closer to Him. Everything. He didn't ask you your permission, and He didn't ask you what you are willing to receive or what you're willing to accept. He didn't ask you. He's telling you. Okay? He's telling you. So these are the concepts that we need to incorporate into our spiritual growth. You'll see how wonderful it is. All right. It says, "You shall be glad with all the goodness that Hashem your God has given you in your household." Here's a mitzvah. It's a commandment. You shall be glad. You shall be glad. I think that's pretty amazing. We're expected to perform these mitzvot with joy and enthusiasm. Whenever we see or have the opportunity to do a commandment or do a mitzvah, we should do it with enthusiasm. I know sometimes we don't feel like doing that. Let's say like our prayers, or saying the Shema twice a day, or giving tzedakah, or going to keeping Shabbat, or keeping the festivals. It seems like sometimes it's so taxing on our time. It's not your time. It's Hashem's time. Hashem gave us our life, and He gave us the time. So we should be joyous. We should rejoice. And there really isn't anything to be upset about or to be sad about. I'm talking about as a core emotion to always be bitter and to be sad. There's no reason for that at all. Now, of course, there are things that are going to make us cry, and there are things that are going to make us feel those emotions. Hashem gave those to us. But intrinsically, deep inside of our soul, we should have a peace and a joy that even those things that make us cry for a moment are going to pass, and that Hashem brought those to us only to bring us even closer to Him. And you may think, well, I do all these things. I give tzedakah, I keep the festivals, I do the mitzvot, I wear the tzitzit, I do all these things, but things still seem to happen in my life that aren't seemingly to be so good. Well, all that means is Hashem wants you even closer. That's really what it means. That's what it means. If we could change the way we view things, and when the first fruits happen, when we are blessed with abundance from Hashem, if we could go to Him then and be grateful and thankful and joyous and ready to perform His mitzvot, then maybe those times that aren't as seemingly good would be less and fewer and far between. The problem is usually when things are good, we pat ourselves on the back. And we go around boasting that we did it, instead of giving the just due to the one who performed it, which is Hashem. One thing in Judaism that it's very important that we do is when if we learn a concept like Emunah, I give credit to Rabbi Brody and Rabbi Shalom Arush, that they are the ones who brought this concept, well, through Hashem, obviously. Hashem through them brought this concept to my eyes, and I studied it. And they're the ones who have the credit of spreading this Emunah. And not just them, there are rabbis and teachers all over the world who are teaching this concept. But the Bible is a concept. Doesn't mean they have a trademark on it. Doesn't mean they have the copyrights to it, because this is Hashem's. This is the concept of the Torah, Emunah. So, but I grasped it because it's very simple, and I'm not a complicated person. Complicated things confuse me, and I get frustrated. This is simple. Just believe that everything comes from Hashem, and that's the thing that we need to do. All right? So, thank you so much for paying attention and listening and watching us here on Torah Juice. Hopefully we'll see you next time. Shalom uvracha.